NCAA Football May 9, 2018 6:03 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time May 9, 2018 11:39 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time Sporting News looks at the top 25 running backs for the 2018 college football season. Will a sophomore take the crown as the nation's top back? Use left or right buttons to navigate. Swipe left or right to navigate. College football enters the 2018 season minus a few exceptionally talented running backs, the most productive running back duo in history, a 2,000-yard rusher, one of the most celebrated running backs to come out of college this decade, and a host of others. Who's going to step up and take their mantle? It's a question directly linked to success in the college game. Consider that 7 of the last 8 college football playoff teams have landed at least one running back on this list, including every team from last season: Alabama's Damian Harris, Oklahoma's Rodney Anderson, Georgia's DeAndre Swift and Clemson's Travis Etienne. More SN's top 25 QBs heading into 2018. You'll see some familiar names like Justice Hill, Cam Akers and Myles Gaskin. You'll also see an advent of new faces, with 19 players making their debut on this list. So who's number 1? Sporting News ranked the top 25 running backs heading into college football's 2018 season. Here's a closer look, courtesy of UAB Athletics. Brown was not only Conference USA's Freshman of the Year in 2017, rushing for 1,292 yards, good for 3rd in the conference, and 10 touchdowns, 5th, but also came 97 yards shy of the CUSA freshman rushing record. That he did it on a UAB team playing its first football in 2 seasons makes it all the more impressive. More 2018 G5 Primer, Getty Images. Harris last year revealed an intriguing, albeit brief, glimpse into the future of Alabama's running game. He averaged 6.1 yards on 61 carries, capped by his title game performance against Georgia, in which he averaged 10.7 yards per rush. With Bo Scarborough off to the NFL, we expect Harris to play a much larger role in the Tide's offense this season. More, all eyes on Jalen Hurts. Getty Images. Feaster represented a third of Clemson's three-headed rushing attack last year alongside quarterback Kelly Bryant and fellow running back Travis Etienne. Feaster might not have the stats Etienne boasted in 2017, but he still improved on his 2016 stats, including rushes, rushing touchdowns and rushing average. It should be more of the same in 2018. More, Trevor Lawrence shows out, but his QB battle over. Getty Images. Moss was a workhorse in his first season starting last year, and all signs point to him continuing that role in 2018. Listed at 5'10", 217 pounds, Moss is a load to bring down, but still elusive enough to make the first guy miss. Among Pac-12 backs returning for 2018, only Bryce Love was more elusive than Moss, according to Pro Football Focus. More 2018 Pac-12 Primer, Getty Images. Ward is one of the more versatile running backs on this list. Not only did he rush for 1,019 yards, average 5.7 yards a carry and scored 10 rushing touchdowns last year, but also he pulled in 48 receptions for 470 yards, both second among returning running backs. He's also one of only 2 players on this list with 1,000 rushing yards and 45 receptions from last season. Getty Images. Homer performed admirably in replacement of Mark Walton after he went down against FSU, averaging 84.3 yards a game through the end of the year. The rising junior will have more expected of him in 2018, especially considering the way he finished in Miami's 3 losses to end the season: 117 combined rushing yards and just 1 touchdown. More, 2018 ACC primer, Getty Images. The former walk-on burst onto the scene in a big way for Cal in 2017, rushing for 1,127 yards and catching 45 passes for 322 yards, joining Jonathan Ward as the only returning backs from 2017 to rush for 1,000 yards and catch 45 passes. He's an elusive runner with a knack for finding the open hole, and he's downright dangerous when he finds open field. Getty Images. More last season wasn't as productive as he was in 2016, though that can be attributed to running behind an offensive line replacing two NFL-caliber players, coupled with nagging injuries that sidelined him for 2 games. With all that, Moore rushed for 1,027 yards and 13 touchdowns. And if his final 4 games, 588 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, are anything to go off, he'll be a force to be reckoned with in 2018. Getty Images. Higdon feasted on lower competition in 2017, putting up 558 yards and 7 touchdowns against Indiana, Rutgers and Minnesota, but struggled in games where the Wolverines needed him most, rushing for only 140 yards and a touchdown against Ohio State, Wisconsin and South Carolina, all Michigan losses. He'll need to be more consistent in 2018, but we think he can accomplish that with quarterback Shea Patterson taking pressure off him. More, Patterson finally gives a QB worth waiting for. Getty Images. Weber saw fewer carries in 2017 than he did as a freshman in 2016, an understandable setback considering he shared a backfield with J.K. Dobbins. That said, his production level was on par with what he'd achieved the year prior, and he's still the overall more complete back of the two. We expect him to progress and see more carries in 2018. More, 2018 Big Ten primer, Getty Images. It's finally Swift's time to shine in Athens after serving as the No. 3 back behind Sony Michel and Nick Chubb, who formed the most productive running back duo in college football history. He's an electric, hard-hitting runner who's all the more dangerous for his home run threat and pass-catching ability. He'll be the number 1 back in a group that likely includes Zamir White and Elijah Holyfield. More, Kirby Smart building Georgia to last. Getty Images. No back in 2017 did so much with so few carries as Etienne. The true freshman led Clemson's ground game with 107 rushes, running for 766 yards and 7.2 yards per carry. More impressive were his 13 rushing touchdowns, which came once every 8 carries. Etienne and Tavian Feaster will continue to vex defenses in 2018. Getty Images. Snell in 2017 became only the 3rd running back in SEC history to rush for 1,000 yards and at least 13 touchdowns in both his freshman and sophomore seasons, joining Herschel Walker and Noshan Moreno. He's also the Sex leading returner in yards, 1,333, and rushing touchdowns, 19. Kentucky struggled rushing the ball without Snell at times, so the Wildcats will need to ensure the No. 2 back is reliable so Snell can be fresh. More, 2018 SEC primer, Getty Images. Montgomery typified substance over style in 2017, forcing a record 110 missed tackles, according to Pro Football Focus. He was the focal point of an Iowa State offense that played 3 quarterbacks throughout the season, rushing for 1,146 yards and 11 touchdowns on 258 carries. He averaged 4.4 yards per rush, but he'll need more help from his quarterback in 2018 if he wants to replicate that success. We think he'll get it. More, 2018 Big 12 Primer, Getty Images. Even with all Memphis offensive firepower in 2017, Henderson stood out with a team-leading 1,154 rushing yards and absurd 8.9 yards per carry, despite having fewer rushes than fellow running back Patrick Taylor Jr., losing quarterback Riley Ferguson hurts, and whose absence will allow defenses to stack the box more against Henderson in 2018, but it also provides Memphis an opportunity to transition to a run-first attack with him and Taylor. That doesn't bode well for AAC defenses. Getty Images. Akers was a bright spot for FSU in an otherwise disappointing 2017 that saw the Seminoles go 7-6. As a true freshman, he rushed for 1,024 yards, 5.3 YPC, and 7 touchdowns, all behind an offensive line ravaged with injuries and with a fellow true freshman learning the ropes at quarterback. If FSU can get some stability on offense, there's no reason to think Akers won't improve on his freshman campaign. He has the size and skill to be one of the nation's best, and we are more than excited to see what he can do in Willie Taggart's offense. More, history shows Taggart can win at FSU. Getty Images. A.J. Dillon reminds us a lot of a locomotive, faster than he looks and indifferent to whatever, or whoever, gets in his way. Dillon's bruising running style helped him rush for 14 touchdowns and 1,569 yards in 2017, good for most by an ACC running back. The only conference player to rush for more yards was then defending Heisman winner Lamar Jackson, who just went in the first round of the 2018 NFL Draft. Getty Images. Harris is coming off his second consecutive season of at least 1,000 yards and a 7.1 yards per carry average. His unique blend of speed, power and explosiveness are part of a skill set that makes him one of college football's most well-rounded backs. He'll keep Alabama's rushing attack ranked among the nation's elite in 2018, and we're curious to see what he does as the #1 back in the Tide's rotation. Getty Images. Anderson was a key cog in Oklahoma's 2017 offense alongside Baker Mayfield, not only leading the Big 12 with a 6.2 YPC average and 18 touchdowns from scrimmage, but also tying Washington State's Jamal Morrow for most touchdown receptions among running backs. 5. Look for Lincoln Riley to find even more imaginative ways to get the ball to Anderson this year as Kyler Murray breaks in at quarterback. When Anderson has the ball, there isn't a more dangerous player on the field. Just look at the final 8 games of 2017, in which he put up 1,333 yards from scrimmage and 16 touchdowns. Getty Images. Hill was a paradox in 2017, at once both a workhorse and an electric playmaker, leading the Big 12 in rushes 268, plays from scrimmage 299, 1,467, rushing touchdowns 15, and yards from scrimmage 1,657. Hill will continue to get those chances in 2018, especially with Oklahoma State replacing quarterback Mason Rudolph and receiver James Washington. Watch for him to transform from workhorse to bell cow this season. Getty Images. Singletary checks in as the top-rated running back in the group of 5, and with good reason. He followed up an impressive freshman campaign by rushing for 1,920 rushing yards, best in G5, and 32 rushing touchdowns, best in college football. Singletary ripped off 12 consecutive games of at least 100 yards. And 1 touchdown in 2017, and if history is anything to go by, Lane Kiffin will continue feeding him the ball, a la Amari Cooper in 2014 and Derrick Henry in 2015. So don't be surprised if Singletary outdoes himself again. Getty Images. Dobbins' star began rising the moment he took the field for Ohio State in 2017, and continued its upward trajectory as he played his best football on the Buckeyes' biggest stages. That helped him to break Maurice Clarett's Ohio State freshman rushing record with 1,403 yards. The fact he's this high on our list after just his freshman campaign, and with room to improve, should have Ohio State fans excited. Even if he has to deal with the loss of Billy Price and DeMarco Jones, he's still our player to watch heading into 2018. More. Dobbins, OSU's throwback of the future. Getty Images. Gaskin has been a model of consistency at Washington, rushing for at least 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns in 3 consecutive seasons. His 45 career rushing touchdowns is already a Washington school record, and he needs only 51 more rushing yards to break Napoleon Kaufman's 23-year-old school record of 4,106 rushing yards. He'll break that in his first game as he stakes his claim as the best running back in Washington history. Getty Images. The Wisconsin phenom was one of the most dominant running backs of the 2017 season, finishing third nationally with 1,977 rushing yards and breaking Adrian Peterson's freshman running record of 1,925 yards, set in 2004. Now consider Wisconsin returns all 5 starting linemen from 2017, meaning defenses won't have any reprieve against Taylor, unless you count the fact they won't miss him coming this season. Taylor can still cut down on his fumbles, and contribute more as a pass catcher this season, but there's nothing wrong with him being one of the best pure rushers in college football. Getty Images. Love did all of college football a huge favor when he decided to return for his senior season. His incredible blend of speed, vision and lateral quickness made him a spectacle last year, the bar that all running backs must face in 2018 and the early favorite for this year's Heisman Trophy. He might have a tough time matching his 2,118 rushing yards, 8.1 YPC average and FBS record 13 rushing touchdowns of at least 50 yards from last year, but we're sure he'll find a few more ways to wow us this season. We can't wait.